Hi, welcome to the Joan Lok monthly Zoom chat. And we only have a few artists with us, but then we'll start. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to answer the questions that I received, from last meeting to this one. And then we have more time, then we'll talk about things that I have prepared. And the first question I have is from an artist learning to practice her signing her name. And then in my video, in my online course, I talk about, if you are practicing signing your name, you may want to actually practice with a brush that you will be signing, and then in the size that you will sign at. Because a lot of times when we are signing or when we are doing calligraphy, we will be working on calligraphies that is bigger. And then, for example, when we were, like, especially for people from Asia, Japan, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Vietnam, Singapore, like, we have to do calligraphy. Is homework. It's actually a weekly homework, right? So we'll be doing calligraphy. And then, this is actually the usual size of the calligraphy. And you look at the size of my palm, and this is, probably around at least 2 inches high. But the reality is when we are writing, we don't write that big. So why do we do that? Is because then we can show the children exactly how to do each stroke, and then be very mindful of each of the movement of the stroke. So a lot of times we are doing this in this size. As a matter of fact, as I say, because I was tidying up my studio, I actually found the one that I really used when I was a kid. This is the paper that I used when I was a kid, and this is rice paper, but you see how yellow it is? It's first of all, it's because of the aging of the paper. But another thing is because they are actually the cheapest rice paper. So what actually you don't have to buy pieces because they usually came already folded. Okay, this is a piece of paper, and then they already have this grid printed on it. And then when you fold it in half and then in half again, so see, then it becomes 2 pages, right? Become 2 pages, right? And also when it becomes 2 pages, what happened is it's actually, hollow inside each of the page, right? Because as I say, this is actually the piece of paper that is printed like this. So after that, they get multiple pages of this together. And then if you have seen an old-fashioned book, then they will punch holes here and then we'll sew it together, right? And then it will become a book that have all these pages, right? And then we will practice 8 different characters on this, right? But then, like, oh, by the way, if you're not talking, you may want to mute yourself, because otherwise, when people are on the speaker wheel, then, your video will suddenly show up. Okay. And then when we practice as a kid, I'm talking about a 4 or 5 years old, it's very hard, even with the grid, it's very hard to actually mimic from the sample. So what we did is we actually have our teacher's sample. I have it somewhere else. But anyway, say for example, this is my teacher's sample. What they will do is they will actually slide it inside the pages. Slide, slide, slide. So as a little kid, you will be able to trace the words. All right. So this is how we practice calligraphy when you were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, right? So that's the size that you practice, right? However, as I say, this is like average at least 2 inches tall on each word. So if we're going to write a letter, we're gonna have lots of pages. So basically, when we write, we will have smaller words. So in the calligraphy online course that I talk about signing, my suggestion is when you are practicing your signature, because I continuously mention that the course is not a calligraphy course. Calligraphy course cannot be a crash course that you look at 3-4 hours instructions and be able to become a calligrapher. What I'm trying to is to, nail down if we want to make one symbol, which is your signature, how to go from there to the signature. And my suggestion is, practice with the brush that you will sign, and then practice in the size that you will sign, right? And because of that, like Chinese brushes or Asian brushes, they don't have synthesized size like the watercolor brush this is a size 6, or this is a size 8 or 12. Then you have an idea of what is a size 12 watercolor round brush, or a size 6, even with different manufacturer. But then manufacturer in this kind of brushes will say small, medium, large, but small, medium, large is relative to the series of brushes that particular manufacturer made. So if they make 5 brushes, the largest one will be extra large, the smallest one will be small, but then it's relative, right? So instead of telling you that take a medium brush or take a small brush or take an extra small brush, my suggestion is this: get a seal that is your name seal. Okay, with say this is my box of name seal, and this is my seal, and I have in another Zoom chat that talk that like when you have a seal, what you may want to do is when you have time, get a piece of rice paper, get the red stem, and then do a chop, so you don't have to look at it to see what it is. You actually have the sample and you know how it looks like. Okay, so say for example with like this is the seal and this is the one that I'm going to use for my signature. And when I'm picking like what size brush should I sign, the goal is you want your signature to be similar size to your seal. You don't want a seal that is this big and then your signature is really small, or you have really big words. And then, for example, like with this is my name. I mean, with these 3 words or these 2-3 words is my name. And then my seal is this. I mean, you don't want your signature, this is your name and then your signature like this. It doesn't look good, all right? Or, like this is, I use it as a logo, but with this is my name seal, and with this is the Asian language. I mean, this seal is actually too big for these words, right? So you don't want a very small seal for your signature, and you don't want a very big seal relative to your signature. So my suggestion in the course that I said, like when you are picking, say for example, this is my name seal, and these are the 4 brushes that I have to choose, which one I would sign my name with. Technically, you can always press harder on the small brush and maybe just use the tip on the big brush. But the reality is you want to be convenient. So I would probably say that measure the seal with the size of the brush by maybe look at it diagonally. And if it is around the same size, it's probably a pretty good size to sign your name with this brush, but this seal. Does it make sense? Any questions? Right? I mean, like this is something that no one taught me. I mean, I actually devised it, and I think it's an easy way to determine, because usually we have like seal. You see here, this one is actually brand new. I haven't have it carved yet, but like seal come in different sizes, and the reason is because we may have artwork of different sizes. We may want to sign a fan. A fan is relatively small, so you may want to pick a smaller seal. And maybe I have a card or something that is a small gift, 8 by 10, 11 by 14. I want to sign it as a gift for my relatives, and I may use a smaller seal. But if I have like a big stroll and things like that, I may want to get a bigger seal, and I may even want to have my, like, for example, like a pair of seal, like so I can, like make it kind of balance the composition, because I think I mentioned that seal is also an anchoring effect as well, right? So that's the question on, like, well, how do you measure the seal with the brush? Is basically to sign with a similar size, and in order to do that, maybe have, so these two brushes would both be okay, but I'll probably pick the smaller one, right? So that's the answer to the first questions that one of our artists have. And the second question that she has is, yes.
I have a question related to calligraphy, and it's the grid that you use.
Yes.
Some of the grids are square and some of them have angles. I don't know if you can.
Oh, yes. Yes, there are two kinds of grids. This one is like the tic-tac-toe, because, like in the Chinese character, there's a word there, but then, like without a better description, it's like tic-tac-toe. This is like 9 grid, right? And that is the one that we have been using for a very long time, for centuries, right? And then the later one that is also available is, without a better word, is similar to the Union Jack. Yeah, this is like, unless there's a better name, but basically it will look like this, right? So which one is better is really a personal preference, right? Because the grid and this Union Jack, the main purpose is for people to copy, and in order to copy, let's do the first one, okay? By the way, this one means happy birthday, Christmas, kind of like Merry Christmas, happy birthday. So this is birthday. This was day, this is birth, all right? So if I'm going to mimic this, instead of just, like knowing that this stroke go down, this stroke go to the left and things like that, I will actually look at this grid and say, it start on the second grid and go from the second grid to the bottom of, to my left. And then this line is in the middle of the middle column, and it go to the middle of the last one. And this line is, like not parallel, but slightly to the upper right and things like that. And it's as effective using the Union Jack as well. And I'll probably say it depends on, like what does your sample use? Because if you have a lot of the calligraphy books, let me see, as I say, I usually have everything prepared, but then this morning I actually get the questions late, so I didn't have all the things. Let me just quickly grab it. These are some of my calligraphy books. See, this is the one that when I talk about, how those pages are linked together. This is by one of my friends, and he published this as a sample for people to help them, like do calligraphy in his particular style. And you see, this is like the tic-tac-toe grid. So if you want to copy this word, then you will buy the paper that also have the tic-tac-toe grid, and you can do this. Or, like for see, I don't see, I don't have the books that has the Union Jack grid, because I think that is kind of new, right? And then for the beginner, then you see all of them has the grid, okay? However, there are also books that does not have it, would just be regular like just inside the square. And because we always go from doing the print to cursive, and you see this one is the grass style, and you see it doesn't have a grid because some of the words, for example, this word is a lot longer going down, and then the space that each word takes may be different. This one only take a little bit, but this one take longer depending on the movement, right? So, but back to the questions that I have from one of the authors. She's asking, because when I give her the instruction, I actually say, like go down to the left, and I wrote some arrows, and she's asking for the direction of the arrow. Is it a vertical stroke, side stroke, or what kind of angle it is? All right, this is true for all calligraphy. Calligraphy is always vertical stroke. Make sense? It's always vertical strokes. And when I say vertical stroke is, as we all know, with this is the paper, is 90 degree. See, okay, 90 degree to the paper, right? And when we are practicing calligraphy, as a little kid, we were told that you have to sit not with your legs crossed, with your leg like well balanced, resting on the floor, the shoulder resting nicely, and you should not be leaning out or leaning back, but like sit up straight, and then hold the brush vertical, as with there is something going all the way from the top of the ceiling to the bottom of the on the floor, and the whole thing has to be vertical. And when we are doing the stroke, even when the stroke looks like, for example, this is Merry Christmas and this is Christmas, this word look like it goes down and then to the right, and have different width. The width is attained by pressing, just like the bamboo stroke, by pressing lower and then moving it to the left or to the right, but the brush is always vertical, right? Make sense? But of course, as I mentioned, like art is art. So this is the kind of like the ideal way of doing calligraphy. But then from the print to the cursive, from doing the standard script, and of course in calligraphy, if you're really into it, besides the standard script, there are also not just cursive script. There are multiple ways. I mean, like as I say, I just grabbed a few different ones, and this one, you see, this is not the standard script. This is slightly different. This is 代书, and like the word is kind of more compressed with wide, and then the way the curve goes, see, like this word is also very stylistic. I mean, there are certain requirements of how this particular script is done, right? And then there are also, for example, like this, if you are really into learning calligraphy, there are all these famous inscriptions that are carved in stone, in like famous places in mainland China, and then they will do the rubbing, and then from the rubbing, get into the print, so people can copy it and things like that. And as I say, like, and then we have modern calligrapher that would also publish their own style, because you see this one is unlike any calligrapher, because this particular calligrapher has his own personal style, right? So but then it's always a center stroke, right? And then the size of the seal. Okay, so I answered those two questions, and I have a question from Judy, and Judy asked about the stone green, stone blue, and things like that. And she asked about what's the way to dilute it and things like that. Ideally, depending on the where you buy it from. Okay, this is a classic. This is number 4 green, and then this one particular say that is premium grade, never fade in color. Do you know why? Because it is the material is actually the mineral from the ground, from earth. They are the real material, mineral that is green in color, right? And because of that, it will never fade in color because they are not pigment. They are actually the color of the stone, and that's why it's so expensive. And then like in the olden times when you dilute it, you get a little plate, you pour this into it, and then you also add glue, and then like artists have 30 fingers. You actually use your finger and put the things in, and then actually use your finger to do it like this, and mix it into the consistency that you want. But of course, the modern one, the one that is in the last 100 years, what the manufacturer know is it's so hard to buy the glue and know how much glue to use. So a lot of times when they produce this, it already has the glue in it. And it would, in the word, I mean, like, when you buy it, the manufacturer will say light glue, heavy glue, and things like that. Most of the time we say light glue, meaning that they already have a little bit of glue added to the powder. So when you dilute it, you don't have to figure out, how many drops of glue do I put in. You can actually do that. And that is the mineral. However, I have to say that it's really, really cumbersome and like not the most convenient. Is there an easier way to buy this? I have to say that a lot of Western manufacturers are trying to make colors that is similar to the Asian, Chinese, Japanese colors, right? And as I say, because I only get the questions, maybe like 10 minutes before this started, so I don't have time to find the paper that I have. I know that Daniel Smith, or actually a lot of credible fine color pigment producer, for the really pursive pigment, they are also from mineral. They are not from chemicals. And when they are from mineral, the blue is actually from stone that are blue. The green are really from stone that are green. And then of course, there are only 3 or 4 kinds of stone that are green. And the majority of them are actually semi-precious metals. And because of that, that's why it's very expensive. As a matter of fact, I mean, that's why I want to find that document. I cannot find it. I believe that there's a particular color. I think it's Queen Gold. It's gone. I mean, whatever they have here available are produced probably around 15 years ago, because that particular mineral that is essential to make that color has been depleted. Okay. And then there's also a particular blue that has become very expensive. And the reason is because that particular blue is, I don't think it's turquoise, but it's similar to turquoise. It's a very particular Pacific kind of blue. It can only be mined in a certain cave in a particular region in the world, all right? And then unfortunately, around 20 years ago, like when you think about cave have underground waters. That particular cave has been flooded. And because it's flooded, it can no longer be mined. And because it can no longer be mined, whatever mineral that human has unearthed are it, okay? Those are all the blue that they can have. And because of that, the price of it becomes very expensive. As a matter of fact, the manufacturer has bought, say, for example, 2 tons of those rocks, or, like 500 pounds of those rocks. They even have a schedule not to grind more than how many pounds per year to make sure that we have supply of that blue for the next 50 years or something like that. And, those are the story about mineral. But then my understanding is a lot of manufacturers are thinking of producing colors similar to the one that is used by Asian painting Chinese painting, Japanese painting. So you know, like we'll see, you know, like how it goes and things like that. But you know, that's the way it is. You know, like you probably may not need to do all this mixing. However, you know, like with you, I mean, now you can find anything online, but there are still manufacturers that produce this. There are still artists that even they may come in tube. They still like to use it in powder and mix it themselves. Okay, so I answered all the questions that I have in stock. Is there any other things that you want to ask, follow up? If not, I promise to cover this. I'm actually getting very close to my half hour. So I just want to mention that on calligraphy, you can use newsprint to practice, and you can get, you know, cheap rice paper that printed with the grid. And I have to say that this may be the last batch ever. I have not seen this in the last 10 years. So I was actually cleaning my studio and find this, and so I can't tell you where you can find this anymore. What you may be able to find is the one that is like this. This is like absorbent rice paper. This one is actually kind of sized a little bit, and if you touch it, it's glossy a little bit, because then the absorbency is limited. So it's a lot easier for kids, because then it would not make a big blob, right? This can be found in Chinatown, and I think if you look in Amazon, maybe, you know, someone will sell it too. But then I'm sure that San Francisco and New York Chinatown, Chicago Chinatown probably has it. It comes like this. Of course, you know, with the new paper. It comes in a pack of maybe this one is 100, you know, so it comes in a pack of 100. It only costs a few dollars, but basically that's how you practice. So you can use newsprint, you can use this, and it still could be very costly. So what I think I will show you is how there's also, you know, other things that you can do to practice calligraphy. And I'm not sure whether you have seen this. Buddha board, right? Okay. And then this is the fancy one. So of course, you know, like it's not cheap, right? But then basically it comes with a board, and they come with a brush and, you know, like a little well for water. But basically what it is you just use water, and then you can write something on it. Say, for example, I just wrote this word in water, but because the water can actually produce kind of like a black mark when it's wet, and then when it dry, it's completely clean. So you can use it to practice. But of course, the Buddha board is actually kind of pricey too, because in a way it's kind of a gimmick too, you know. So I have to say that I always like to have one, and I was able to buy one when it was on sale. But then, you know, I know that this is pricey. But what you may be able to find besides the paper is this. You also can find it in Chinatown, in stationery store, and this is called water paper. And basically what it is it's the same material that was pasted on the Buddha board, and what they did is they add the grid to it. You see the red mark, right? So you can use it to practice calligraphy. Okay. Yeah. Right. I just use water, but then it create a black mark, right? And then, you know, like this one, you can see that it's already drying. So when it dry, it will disappear, just like the Buddha board, right? And but then you will say, hey, but then, I don't live near Chinatown. How do I get this? A few years back, I was able to buy this from a actually from at a craft fair. But this is a supplier that can be found in Michael's and Joanne. Lok Cornell. Yeah, this one is called brush up paper. And when you look at that, it is the same thing. It's the same kind of paper, just without the grid, right? So you can just use water.
Joan,
Yes.
this actually has calligraphy on it. Can you
Oh, okay. So
I
you
got
can
this on
just copy
eBay.
the stroke then.
Yeah, I got this on eBay a long time, well, several years ago.
Do you find it useful?
I'd use it. Yeah, I do, because I can keep a little dish of water and a dedicated brush, so it's only water.
Mhm.
And every
Yeah.
morning I do that, my strokes.
Yeah, only use water, because if you use anything other than water, when it dry, it will leave a mark, then it defeats the purpose, right? And then another thing is, this does not last forever, right? The manufacturers say 1,000 times. Of course, you're not counting it, but basically, like it kind of like when the paper age, or when you have used it for a long time, the effectiveness would kind of disappear, right? But then I recommend, if you are practicing painting, I recommend using, if you are doing strokes, use newsprint instead of this, because you really want to see what you did, like what you did last week and what you did today. And then another thing is, you cannot do paper. You cannot do color. You can only do water. So you can only do black and white, right? So like the only thing you can really practically do is for calligraphy. And then another thing is, I think I bought. Besides, doing the words that you want to, do the print, because, like we are talking about practicing your signature, and in a way it's a cursive. You want to practice, like how the line go from one word to another and flow to another. And in a way, you are practicing the lifting of the brush above the paper. I mean, like kind of how much of the tip of the brush is touching the paper, and lifting and touching. So you have this really nice thick and thin here, right? Because in my suggestions to the students that have the calligraphy sample, I think, like one of the things that I recommend is play with not having the tip of the brush ever leaving the paper, to purposely leave the linking between the two different strokes, to see how the curve goes. Because you may like it, you may not. It's just like when you are doing cursive, like when we are doing cursive, when we were young, we learned, for example, THE, THE, and everything is all linked together. But then when we are older, when we write the word, we may not have all the word linked together. And sometimes it looks nicer, sometimes it's not. And then for your signature, you may want to link all of them together or not. So one of the things I ask the artists who are trying to practice their signature is to like try not to leave the paper, to have the tip leave the paper, to see how it looks, because everybody's personality is different. In Chinese saying, your calligraphy is a reflection of the personality. So technically, a very good pair of eyes can tell whether you are mean or generous, whether you are angry or happy when you're writing, just by looking at your signature and your calligraphy. Is that telling, right? So in a way, how much pressure you press down on writing a vertical or horizontal give away your personality, or at least the mood that you are in. So practice that, and because of that, these kind of paper would really help, because you can do it over and over again. And I think I forwarded it. Because sometimes when we are practicing, of course, it's nice to, for example, like although it is the grid at 3 square, but then I try to use only 2 square to do each word on my practice, because I'll do smaller words, right? So you can do what you want, but sometimes, just like what Noreen showed us, there are times that you are unhappy with a particular stroke and you want to continually practice to get it right, right? And because of that, this will never become a painting. It will never become a calligraphy that you can show. You are using a lot of paper, and that's why you want to use the Buddha board, the kind of like we call it the magic paper, but we've not just used like a cheaper paper. And one thing about these is I usually would write down the date, like 2021, May 14, May 16. And then, a month later, I can look at it and see, oh, this is something that I did. Or for example, here, I actually wrote this down, 2016, July 27. So I know that, this is what I did, a few years back. And then if I do one today, I mean, am I better? Am I worse? Or, like this is the same day also on the 27th, but then, maybe I will go to two more pages and then I see that, in 5 days, maybe I improve. So the thing of keeping the real paper is you can see your progress, and then these would not do it. And because of that, there are some calligraphy teachers that advise against using it for the student, because they really want the student to see the improvement. And this, after it dry, you see like this, the one that I use, is already gone. And this has become a little block, right? And then the Buddha board, because of the material, the Buddha board still has a dot on it. Yeah, the word, I mean, the mark is still there, but then the rest of it is gone. All right. So, okay. I think I have used up, all the time. Is there any questions? Next time, if you have questions ahead of time and things like that, if you can let me know 1 or 2 days in advance, I can find the materials so I can, illustrate it a little bit better. But then, thank you everybody for joining me. And remember to, remember to check my website from time to time. I have a new how to sign your, sign in Chinese course. And I think I also published a Gongbi course, which is doing the painting on the size paper with layers of washes. And I have a request to do a workshop on bird. So I'm planning it. And the first one will be a songbird sitting, because songbird can be singing, basically it's a very small bird. I'm planning that. And if you have any questions or comment, do send it in. Oh, by the way, last time when we talk about a board to share artwork, and I have added discussion board on all my courses. So artists can go to the discussion board and share. And what I find out is very few people do that. However, I know that, when you are in the cherry blossom course, I know that a student has shared his artwork. So if you are interested and you are also the cherry blossom course artist, then you can go in and see his work. It's beautiful, by the way. So, if you have online courses and if you want to share, you can share it in the discussion board. But of course, you can email me. All right. If there's no more questions, I'm wrapping up, and I will post this in a few days. And thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.